What's up guys, this is Eric Vasquez here with a brand new design tutorial for you today from designcuts.com. In this tutorial we'll be creating a book cover design for the Whimsical Winter in Photoshop. To create our design we'll be using elements from the Totally Artistic Designer's Toolbox, featuring some freebies from Barnard Studio and NKate. In order to complete our design we will also be working with a realistic mock-up from the Design Cuts marketplace, along with a free typeface and a couple of free stock images. The Totally Artistic Designer's Toolbox is a truly massive assortment of high-quality assets, from the popular letter builder by Ian Barnard to the awesome wilderness scene creator by the Artifex Forge that will truly let your imagination soar. So if you're all ready to get started, then fire up Photoshop and let's begin. Now, the first thing we're going to do today is begin with our mock-up. So we're going to go ahead and open the hardcover Mock 2 PSD file from the Design Cuts marketplace and save it with a new name. So let's just go ahead and open that file, and then we're just going to do a quick save as and save it with a different name. Now once you've saved your file as a new name, let's go ahead and take a look at the layers that we have available here. And you'll see at the moment we only have one single layer. So let's go ahead and double click that Smart Object layer to go inside of it, and we will be one level down. Now once you're inside in this second level of the mockup here, you'll see that you have a few more layers, and the first one that we're going to work with here is the one that says Replace Ground Texture. So once again, go ahead and double click on that to go inside, and then we can replace our background image. Now once you're in here, we're going to come up to the File menu, and we're going to choose Place Embedded, and we are going to navigate to our first free stock image from Pexels. Okay, so this image is not included with the freebies, but it is a free image that you guys can download, and there's a link for it in the written portion of the tutorial. So let's go ahead and choose Place to bring that in here. And it should automatically fit to the size of our canvas. So let's see what happens here once we place the image. Okay, and it did. So all we have to do now is press Return, Command-Control-S to save it, and then once it's finished saving, press Command-Control-W to close the window and return to the previous level of our mockup. So now you can see we're back inside here, and we have effectively changed the background. So now let's go ahead and click on the first smart object here that says Replace Your Design, and double click on it, and you're now inside of another smart object layer here, controlling the cover and the spine of the book. So again, we need to double click on this to go down one more level, and now we can begin building our design. The first thing we're going to do is double click on this color fill adjustment layer, and we're going to replace this by entering the hex value 1A74DA, which is this nice bright blue color. Then go ahead and click OK. Now from here, come up to the File menu and choose Place Embedded once again. And now we'll go to our other free stock image, this one from Pixabay, and it's a cool shot of this snow-covered mountain here. So let's go ahead and choose Place. And again, this one isn't in the freebies folder, but you guys can download it. Just follow the link in the description, or in the written portion of the tutorial, I should say. And once you bring this in, all you're going to do is hold Alt, Option, and Shift, or if you're working in the latest version of Photoshop, just Alt, to scale it up. Okay, we're going to place it somewhere around here. Make it nice and big and kind of center it so that the peak of the mountain is somewhere in the middle. Now once you've done that, go ahead and change the blend mode from normal to multiply, and press the number 6 on the keyboard to reduce the opacity of the layer to 60%. Now hold the Alt Option key and click on the adjustment layer icon here, and then scroll down and select the black and white option. Now check off this box that says Use Previous Layer to create clipping mask and click OK. And all that's going to do is desaturate that mountain image, but not affect the background behind it. Now from here we can begin working with some of the elements from the design bundle, which are a lot of fun. So come back up to the File menu and choose Place Embedded. And this time we're going to navigate to the Freebies folder. Inside you'll find this NKate subfolder. Let's go ahead and select G17, which is the first of 3 really nice looking metallic strokes that we're going to be working with today. And once you bring this into the file here, we're going to start by just moving it down to the lower right corner, and then we're just going to rotate it counterclockwise a bit, and maybe move it down a little bit more. Somewhere around here looks pretty good, and then go ahead and press Enter on the keyboard to apply the changes. Now from here, hold the Alt Option key again, and then click on the adjustment layer icon at the bottom, And this time we're going to choose Hue Saturation, check off the box to use the previous layer as a clipping mask. And now all we're going to do here in the properties is increase the saturation to about 38%. All right, and that's just going to make that color really pop. It's going to make the gold even more vibrant and bright. Now come up to the File menu, choose Place Embedded, and now let's select another of these gold metallic strokes. We're going to grab G14, choose Place, and this time we're going to place it in the opposite corner. So I'm just going to zoom out a bit here, move it to the upper left, okay, and then rotate it. Again, rotate it counterclockwise. Okay, a bit like that. Maybe rotate it a little more. Somewhere about there looks good, and then press return. And we're going to do the same thing where we hold the Alt Option key, click on the adjustment layer icon, add a hue saturation adjustment layer with a clipping mask, and then just bring the saturation up to about 38. Okay, we want that to be consistent with all of the metallic strokes here. So while we're at it, I'm going to select that top hue saturation adjustment layer, hold the Shift key and select the G17 layer so that these top 4 layers are selected at the same time. Press Command-Control-G to put them into a group folder, and we'll call this Metallic Strokes. Now grab the black and white adjustment layer, hold Shift and select the Color Fill adjustment layer all the way at the bottom. Once again, press Command-Control-G on the keyboard to put it into a folder. Double-click the Group 1 text, and instead call this folder Background. Now I'm going to come to the top here and add a new layer, and then I'm going to press T on the keyboard to get my type tool. Now I'm just going to click somewhere in the middle of the canvas here and type out the word "the" in all lowercase letters. And what we want to do is grab our character panel, which if you guys don't have it docked to the side, you can get it just by coming up to the window menu and choosing character from the drop-down. Okay, and what we're going to do here is change this typeface to a free font from dafont.com. It's just called Brilliant. Okay, we're going to use Brilliant. Here it is. And we're just going to change the size to 14 point. All right, and it's pretty small, so let me zoom in a little bit here so you guys can see it better. All right, and I think we can probably increase that even more. Let's maybe make it about 60 point. That looks pretty good. And I'm just going to click my cursor here between the T and the H, and then hold the Alt Option key and tap the right arrow a couple of times just to add a little bit of space there. All right, something like that looks pretty good. And again, this typeface you guys can download for free at dafont.com, and you'll find the link for that in the written portion of the tutorial. Now we're going to move this over roughly in the middle. Press Command-Control-J to duplicate it, Command in the left bracket to move that copy below the original, Command-Control-T to do a free transform, click, hold the Shift key, and slide it down. And now grab your type tool once again, click inside 2 or 3 times, and let's go ahead and change this word to say whimsical, just like that in all lowercase letters. Now we'll use the same font here, but I'm going to double the size about and make it 128 point instead. Okay, and then I'm going to just slide it over here. And what we want to do now is change out some of these letters. So if you come up to the window menu, you'll see that you have this option here called glyphs, and I've already got that open. So I'm just going to drag it here to the side so that you guys can see. Now I'm going to press T and just highlight the W here. And if you scroll down a bit, you'll see that you have all of these alternate characters. And we're going to change up a few of these characters just to give our title treatment a little bit more of a custom look and feel. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is double click on this W here to change that. It's got this nice sweeping vertical line. And now let's go ahead and select the S, and we're going to do the same thing. I want to find a nice suitable replacement for that, so double click on it. And now what we're going to do is once again manually adjust the kerning. So click your cursor between the W and the H, hold Alt Option and tap the left arrow maybe 2 or 3 times. Come over here between the M and the S, and this time hold the Alt Option key and tap the right arrow once. See, we just want those letters to connect there, so we're actually adding a little bit of space. Come over one spot between the S and the I, and now hold Alt Option and tap the left arrow once, just to decrease a little bit of that space there and give our type some love. So from here we'll press Command-Control-J to duplicate that layer, Command-Control and the left bracket to move that copy down, press Command-Control-T, click, hold the Shift key, and slide it down. Now come in here and select everything but the W because we want to keep that, and we're going to type out the word winter. Now again, you can see we have a funny little break here between the E and the R, so I'm just going to click the cursor there, use the Alt option and the right arrow to add a bit of space, and then select the R only, and we're now going to replace that character as well. So once we find a nice looking replacement for that letter, we can just go ahead and try out some different ones. So you'll see here you've got a couple of different options. They're all kind of mixed in. You could do something like this, or you could, come down here, maybe do something like that. However you guys want to do it is totally fine. I happen to like this one actually with this nice kind of wave here. Alright, and now we can just go ahead and close that glyphs panel, and we'll use our move tool to just reposition this text a little bit. So I'm going to slide it over here so that the T is kind of beneath the I and the S kind of dips down in this nice little space. So once you're happy with the size and positioning of your text, we're going to select the top layer, hold the Shift key and select the Winter layer, press Command-Control-G to put it into a group folder and rename it TT for title treatment. Now we can zoom out a little bit, and I'm just going to place it a little bit lower and still roughly in the middle of the composition. The next thing we're going to do is come back up to the File menu and choose Place Embedded so that we can import our next image. Go back to the Freebies folder, this time inside of the Barn Owl Studio subfolder, and select Watercolor 1. Now this is just one of many beautiful watercolor textures that comes in the full bundle, and we're just going to be playing around with one of these today just to demonstrate how you can use some of these just in this one example. So here I'm just scaling it up a bit and rotating it, and make sure that it's placed just above the TT folder here. Now hold the Control key and click on that Smart Object layer and choose Create Clipping Mask. Now what we've done is essentially made it so that we're only seeing this watercolor texture inside of the type. And you can just apply a free transform here and manipulate this however you want just to play around with some different looks. Now we're going to go ahead and change the blend mode from normal to pin light, and then select the TT group folder, come down to the adjustment layer icon, and add a hue saturation adjustment layer. Once you've done that, check off the box here that says colorize, change the hue to 200, and let's increase the saturation to about 68. Okay, so we've now gone ahead and adjusted that a little bit, but the problem is that we actually want this hue saturation adjustment layer to be above the watercolor layer. However, we want to ensure that the clipping mask is still applied. So all we're going to do is hold the Command-Control key and tap the right bracket at the same time to move it up one spot. And you'll see that now the order of those layers has changed, but we still have the clipping mask that we want. So if you go ahead and select that watercolor texture once again, you can now come back in here and play around with the rotation, maybe the scale, just until you get something that looks nice inside of the letters here. Right, and I think that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to select the metallic strokes here and then come up to the File menu and choose Place Embedded. And this time let's go ahead and open the one.png file, which is this cool illustration of a bear here, and this made me think of winter for some reason. And all we're going to do is expand this from the center. So hold the Alt Option key and drag outwards if you're in the newest version of Photoshop. If you are working in a previous version, you'll need to hold Shift and the Alt key at the same time. Okay, so I'm just going to scale this up a little bit more, somewhere about there. And then make sure that the bear is placed behind the text. Okay, from here press U on the keyboard and we're going to switch over to our Shape tool. And this time we want to make sure that we have the Ellipse tool selected. So if you happen to have one of these other tools, maybe you have the Rectangle tool selected, hold the Shift key and just tap U 2 times to get to the ellipse. Now up here in the toolbar, we're going to change it so that our stroke is black, our fill is none, and we're going to change the pixels to about 20. Alright, now we're just going to hold the Shift key and click and drag out a circle that we're going to place around the bear and sort of a little bit behind the text. So it doesn't have to go around all of the text, but we just want to place it in the middle here. Okay, somewhere about there. Maybe we can even make it a little bit smaller, just so the L kind of breaks through that line. And now we'll go ahead and select the bear and maybe shrink that down just a touch as well, just so we have a little bit of room between the bear and the circle. Okay, and that looks pretty good. Both of these layers are now behind the title treatment, so go ahead and hold the Command and Shift keys and select both of them. Press Command-Control-G to put it into a group folder, and we'll just call this bear and circle. Now from here we're going to come up to the File menu, choose Place Embedded, and let's go and select our third metallic stroke image from NKate. This time we're going to be using G16 and choose place. Just like before when we had our watercolor texture, we can scale and resize this however we want. We just want to make it so that it covers all of the bear and the circle. Alright, so I'm going to scale it up quite a bit here, and it's okay that it's this huge because we're really not going to see a lot of it, but we are going to make sure that it's placed right on top of that bear and circle folder. Hold the control key and click on the image and choose create clipping mask. Now you should only see that gold texture inside of that folder. Okay, so now what I'm trying to do is just kind of resize this and reposition it so that I don't have any large areas of black, because it's a little too much contrast and it can be a little bit distracting. So we don't want to have too much of that black showing, but I think somewhere about there looks pretty good, so I'll just press return to apply the changes. And now select that folder, click on the adjustment layer icon, and add a hue saturation adjustment layer. Now, just like before, we want to make sure that this is above our metallic stroke. So press Command in the right bracket one time, and then just increase the saturation to 38 so that it matches the other two metallic strokes. Okay, now from here I'm going to go into the TT folder, and I have these three text layers. So what I'm going to do is hold Command and Shift on the keyboard and click on the thumbnail for both or all of these three layers. Now you should have a selection made around all three words, and what we're going to do is come up to the Select menu and choose Modify, Expand, and let's expand it by 20 pixels and click OK. Come back up to the Select menu, choose Inverse to invert that selection, and now click on the Bear and Circle group folder and add a layer mask. And you can see that that's just knocking out about 20 pixels to kind of break this area in here around the type. And that just makes it a little bit easier to read, sort of serving as an outline around the text. Now, there are a few edges that I want to clean up here, so I'm going to press B on the keyboard to get my brush tool. Make sure that you have 100% opacity black brush selected, and I'm just going to come in here and maybe clean up some of these little stray edges along the bottom that we don't really need. Okay, careful, that one's a little close to the circle there, and we can just clean up a few more of these areas. Alright, maybe we don't want to lose all the detail, but we don't want anything to be too distracting here, and certainly if there's only like one or two dots somewhere, that's going to look a little bit odd, but I think something like that looks pretty good. You know, use your discretion here. There's no right or wrong way. Now come up to the top here, add a new layer, and press T to switch over to your type tool. And this time let's go ahead and change our font. Instead of this free one from defont.com, we're going to use another free font called Railway. Now Railway is a Google font that you guys can also download for free just by searching Google Fonts, or you can use the link in the written portion of the tutorial. And you'll be able to download this whole family here. It's a really nice looking typeface. Nothing too fancy, but it's just a nice, easy to read kind of font. And we're going to use the extra bold style. What I'm going to do is change the color to solid white, and I'm just going to add in a subtitle here. So let's go ahead and type out a magical collection of children's stories. Press Command Control A to select all and change the size to something smaller, maybe around 14 point. Okay, and I'm just making sure I spelled everything correctly. It looks like I did. And now we're going to place that roughly in the center above our lockup here in the middle. Now press Command Control J to duplicate the layer, Command Control and the left bracket to move it down one spot, press Command Control T to do a free transform, click, hold the Shift key and slide it down below the lockup. Now click inside a few times with the type tool again, and this time we're going to type out by Ian Barnard, and we're just going to slide this in the middle here so that it's centered underneath our lockup. Okay, and if you want to check the alignment, all you have to do is hold the Command Control key, click on the text layer just above it, come up to the top toolbar here and choose Align Horizontal Centers. Okay, and now our design is looking pretty good. I think we're just about there. All I'm going to do is maybe just move some of these layers down a little bit so they're in the middle. So just select the top layer, hold Shift, and come down and select the Bear and Circle folder. Press V to switch to the Move tool, and then just hold Shift and tap the down arrow maybe 2 or 3 times. Somewhere about there looks pretty good. And we're all ready to place this onto our mockup. But before we do that, there's one more adjustment that we need to make. If I come back into this previous layer here, it's a little bit hard to tell, but it's actually going to use our image and kind of stretch it out so that it can cover the spine. So because of that, it's going to throw off our alignment. So our text would look more to the right than centered. So to compensate for that, we actually need to extend the canvas a little bit to the left. So to do that, come up to the image menu, choose canvas size, and in here you see where the anchor is. We're going to click on this middle right arrow, and that's going to ensure that whatever size we change it to, when we change the width parameter here, it's only going to be modified on the left side. So instead of 9.6, let's go ahead and make this 10.6 so that we can add about an inch to the left, and then press enter or return on the keyboard to apply those changes. Okay, and now you can see that we have more space on the left hand side. So from here, let's go ahead and save it. Press Command Control S on the keyboard, and once that's finished saving, it'll update in our previous Smart Object layer, just going up one level back in the mockup. And so we can close this window once it's finished updating all of the smart objects and everything else. Alright, now press Command Control W to close the window. And now once you're brought into the next smart object layer, all we're going to do in this one is press Command Control S to save it, and then Command Control W to close it once it is finished saving. Okay, and now you should see everything looking nice and neat on the cover here. And it's looking pretty good. You can see what I meant about the image kind of being pulled a little bit to the left, so we want to try our best to just keep everything nice and centered. What we're going to do here is select this Details folder in the middle, hold the Alt Option key and click on the adjustment layer icon and add a levels adjustment. And we're going to boost some of the contrast here, so check off this box to use the previous layer as a clipping mask. And now all we're going to do is move this gray slider in towards the left until it's set to around 35 to 38, just to add some nice contrast there. And then go ahead and zoom out a bit. And now we can press Command Control S to save this and Command Control W to return to our main mockup. Okay, and now we are back here in our main mockup file. And the mockup looks pretty cool. There's just a couple of last little tweaks that I want to make here. And the first one is to click on this arrow just on the right of the layer, and you'll see that we have a couple of smart filters applied here. What I want to do is turn off this one that says Blur Gallery, so just poke out the eyeball there, and that's just going to disable that blur effect there because I want everything to be nice and sharp. Now lastly, let's press C on the keyboard so that we can switch to our crop tool, and move your cursor over either the right or the left handle and drag in towards the center while holding the Alt Option key on the keyboard. And let's go ahead and bring this in so that the width is about 10.5, and then press enter. And that's just going to help keep all of the focus on the nice looking book cover design. Now that just about does it, guys. We have now completed our Whimsical Winter book cover design in Photoshop. So to make our cover today, we used just a couple of freebies, just a small sampling of the wide variety of things that you guys can expect to find in the Totally Artistic Designer's Toolbox. It really is an amazing variety of high quality elements that you can add to your collection that'll help you step up your work right away. So be sure to check that out, guys. I hope that you enjoyed today's tutorial and hopefully picked up some tips and tricks along the way. As always, we would love to see what you guys do with these assets and how you use these tips in your own work, so please do share that with us. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. This is Eric Vasquez with Design Cuts, and we'll see you next time.